Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch the Track podcast presented by the Dude and Grim Show. I am the Dude.
And I am Grim. And today we are going to discuss the monumental Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin. As you can see, I only have one disc of this, as that was what was in my uncle's record collection, so thank you, and God rest his soul, Uncle Max.
Dude, don't you wonder where that other disc is?
I do. I really do. Like, to think of who he could have, like, let borrow it or something, and they still have it, and they're like, man, where the fuck is disc 2?
Yeah.
Well,
because
disc 2 is right here, friends, and it is still sounding great as ever.
I have both of them because I went and picked it up yesterday, which
This
is one I've been wanting. I've been wanting to get on vinyl for a really long time. It's just one of those ones. This is their 6th studio album, released February 24th, 1975. It's an interesting album.
Is it your favorite Led Zeppelin album?
So, well, that we get into favorites, we get into best ofs. I will say this: the best way I can answer that question, if there's an album that I put on of Led Zeppelin now, it's this one. That's
a very fair way to answer it. So basically,
this
yes.
Sort of, yeah, probably.
It's mine.
Yeah, but then you start, man, there's some other good ones. Oh, there's a lot of,
I know, but
other good ones.
This was one where I don't even remember how I first started getting into Led Zeppelin, but I remember having the BBC sessions first and then getting the albums from there. And the BBC sessions is really representative of basically like 1 through 4. Right, 4 was like the new album that they were kind of messing around with tracks and still playing them live. But after getting the kind of initial phase of Led Zeppelin and then Houses of the Holy, which is kind of a good, honestly, bridge between those first 4 albums, I would say. And
where is that found?
And even but dude, then I bought this one on double CD because that's what we had.
Oh,
right.
Dude.
And yeah. I just remember because I wanted Kashmir. Like I knew that song and I knew I really liked it and I wanted the album. So I was like, well, it's Led Zeppelin. It's probably going to be good, and bought this. Yeah. And I don't know. It was just so different to me than anything I had heard leading up to that. Like the acoustic stuff that they did was different than the acoustic stuff on 3 or 4. The rock stuff was a little more like developed. It was like a little. It wasn't just riff based rock. There was more to it. Sure. Plant sang a little differently. I thought. I don't know. I just really liked what it did, and it went a lot of places.
Yeah, and there's a couple reasons for that. I really like. I think you see some of John Paul Jones's finest work.
Absolutely.
On this album, and I feel like we'll talk a little bit about that in some of the songs. I feel like he's sort of just like the unsung hero of Led Zeppelin.
Dude, he absolutely is.
And for those people who haven't seen our episode on Them Crooked Vultures, his awesome supergroup band with Josh Homme and Dave Grohl on drums, like, whoa. Check that one out.
Also the unsung hero of that one.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But this is also a very interesting album because, kind of like you say, it bridges a lot of their work because 8 of the songs they recorded for this album, but other songs were taken from other sessions, the previous recordings that didn't make those albums. From most notably, the 2 albums are Houses of the Holy and Led Zeppelin 4. There's one song, Bron-Yr-Aur, which is off Led Zeppelin 3. But basically what they did is they went in, they recorded these songs, and it was more than one record. So they said, hey, fuck it, we're going to do 2 records. And they had all those leftover tracks that aren't just like leftover. A lot of times you think of, we got some leftover tracks that kind of did. No, they're good songs. Right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think it's interesting because when you hear Boogie With Stu, right? Now, I didn't know this at the time of buying the record as a kid, but
I had no
when you
idea.
hear Boogie With Stu, you could believe that was an outtake. Just because it's just kind of it's like guys in a room messing around. It doesn't sound like like they were in a big, you know what I mean? It's just real down home, earthy. But then the fact that they put Black Country Woman after it makes it maybe not seem like that. Like that was something that they meant to do to kind of get into this other soundscape.
Sure. Well, and then I mean, even with but even with Bron-Yr-Aur, I remember hearing that. I do remember hearing that and being like, "Gosh, that's really Led Zeppelin 3," and it is, because that's their what you'd call, if they had an acoustic sounding album, like that's it. And so I found it to be an interesting choice just to throw that on there.
Yeah.
But it's a great piece of music. But,
it's really beautiful, and I think it's great, well placed after In the Light, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a little bit kind of how it was recorded. They started recording it towards the end of 1973 in November. And
now you're talking about the not Leftover. Leftovers are off the table. We're talking the album proper. Yeah.
Boom. Yeah. Before they even, I think, knew that it was going to be a double album or anything like that. They were just, went in, and it's called what Headley Grange or Headley. I forget exactly how you say Headley. It, but it's basically like it's one of these big old houses, mansions, where a lot of other bands record. And I believe they recorded most
Led Zeppelin
of
4 there.
Or Led Zeppelin 4 there. Yeah. And then I think some tracks for 3 and some for House of the Holy, but the majority of 4 was there as well. But so they go in there and they start to record, and John Paul Jones, basically the sessions were stopped. And from what I think the press was told is that John Paul Jones kind of became ill. But it kind of came out later, I guess, that he was really frustrated with the band and considered quitting. And Peter Grant, who is a bad motherfucker, the band's manager, he's a big dude, just told him to take the rest of the year off and recuperate, do what he needs to do. So sounds like he did that, and they came back in early 74 and recorded.
It's funny, I hadn't read that, but it makes sense. And think about when you watch the movie of The Song Remains the Same.
Yes.
Like, think about that movie, like Robert Plant's, like when they go into their fantasy sequences, which is just amazing. Robert Plant's like a Highlander, like roaming the countryside and doing,
with
doing
his
all
children and their long blonde locks. And it's like, oh my God.
And then Jimmy Page is like the kind of mysticism, like black magic dude, and John Paul Jones just goes home and just hangs out with his family. Like, dude, I'm sure tomorrow. The rock star life probably has to be pretty difficult for a guy who's like really just kind of a normal dude, especially the rock and roll life of Led Zeppelin, which was like like excessive, exponentially.
Yeah, and I think we can talk a little bit more about that when we get to the last track of the album, "Sick Again," which is very based kind of around that life. But now, Grim, they used a mobile recording studio for this album. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I looked at it, and it's called Ronnie Lane Mobile Recording Studio. It looks like Lane Mobile Studios for short. And dude, it's really cool. As I'm looking at the pictures of it, it's basically an Airstream. Like it's nice. it's a silver Airstream trailer, and he's got a board at one end, and he's got like outboard gear and a tape machine over here, and I guess I'm like torn on this. Part of me is like, why didn't you just bring the shit and set it up? And then the other part of me is like, why the fuck would you? It's already set up in the trailer.
Yeah.
You just plug that shit in and you go.
Yep.
So I think it's kind of a really cool idea, because then the space is the only limitation of the space is the length of your cable snakes and stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. And well, like you said, they did this for Led Zeppelin 4, and a lot of bands have done this over time. I mean, we will be doing later this year, spoiler alert, a Rolling Stones album called Exile on Main Street, where they were in the south of France, and they recorded in a very similar way. They were at Keith Richards' house, and they recorded in the basement, but they had basically a mobile recording studio parked kind of outside of the house that everything just kind of ran into. And a lot of bands have done this, over the years. I think initially younger bands are like, oh, we want to get into the studio because it has this aura, right? And it has this
it's a creative cool atmosphere. Space.
Yeah.
Explode space.
And then they want to kind of get out of it. And that's what they did here. A lot of bands have done that over time.
Well, I watched an interesting documentary just last night about this called Recording in Process, or Recording in Progress rather. And it's kind of about the decline of like recording studios with, what's happening in the music industry. And it's funny because people have said the same thing. They're like, I like going into the studio. It's a creative space, but I feel more pressure there. And when I'm like in an environment that's like kind of off, with my band or with whoever I'm working with, it feels more comfortable, and I don't feel like this added pressure. It feels more natural.
What do you know about pressure?
Like, subscribe, and comment below.
Yes, we don't use that. But, well, I think that's what, at least one thing, that's what I read about. And I think Jimmy Page, we watched a YouTube video on him earlier. I think he might have touched on a little bit too. Is it was really nice for them to all be in this house where
they're just staying there. Yeah.
You're just chilling out. You're eating there. You're sleeping there. You're working. It's a very collaborative experience. And I just think that's pretty cool. I mean, just like, I'm not a musician, but that sounds like a really fun way to kind of do an album. So,
oh wow.
So they basically did. I mean, they did 8 tracks, not an 8-track. They did 8 tracks while they were there.
8 songs.
8 songs. Yeah, 8 songs. And it's kind of funny. I mean, some of these songs are definitely on the longer end, and John Bonham's given a lot of credit for coming in and kind of organizing things, because some of them had complicated arrangements, and he even is given sort of songwriting credit on some. Now, it was weird when I looked at the songwriting credit, I didn't see him given credit for too many, but I know songs like In My Time of Dying, which is a very long song that has these transitions and whatnot, he's the one who kind of orchestrated a lot of that.
Now that's cool. That's really cool.
Well, I think one thing I don't know if there's more we want to say before we want to get into the tracks. This album was actually supposed to be released at the end of 1974, but just like Spinal Tap with Smell the Glove, they were experimenting with some different packaging designs and materials. So it was supposed to be released at the end of 74, and they had actually already had, I think, some gigs booked for early in 75 to kind of like coincide with, hey, the album came out, and then like a month or so later you were going to start our tour. So the album itself, and you'll see kind of here, is was tough to manufacture, and I think the main part is like the dye, but then also you have all these cutouts like in the windows.
Well, that's the dye.
Is that the dye? Okay.
Yeah, so it's basically a dye is like a big machine, and you put the dye in there, and the dye has all like the punch outs, and then it just goes on the paper.
Right.
So it's like if you don't get that spacing just right. And it's funny.
It's just not going to look right.
Yeah, and you would think like a machine like that, you're like, well, I don't understand. It's like everything's set. Like, how can it fuck it up? But it's interesting, dude, as you do production runs of material, like things start to kind of drift. Like, you know what I mean?
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that.
And so I'm not surprised that happened. But, man, when you think about it, I know we talked too offline. There's a lot of stuff out there that kind of has this. I mean, Led Zeppelin 3 you mentioned, and also I talked about Rolling Stone Some Girls with the faces. Yep.
Well, and the thing with it is it is kind of cool because you can see sort of in the windows it just spells out Physical Graffiti, but then as you pull the discs out and the album up, it has track sides or sides and track names, but then the inside has windows, and inside those windows it's kind of like famous people, pictures of the band and everything. So
that's what I have.
Yeah, just without the
cover or the first disc.
And then you can put those in, and boom, Look at, you can see everybody in the windows. So
Yeah.
it's a cool design. I really dig it.
Oh,
man.
that's really unique.
Yeah.
And what was the cover was, what did they say? It was like St. James Place, or just basically some apartment building in New York.
Yeah, it's a building
St.
in New
Mark's
York.
Place in
in
Manhattan.
New York City.
96 and 98 East 8th Street.
They give you the address. I mean,
Yeah.
you could find it, I'm sure. It was also nominated for a Grammy for Best Album Package.
Oh, that's cool. I don't know why it wouldn't have been best fucking rock album, I guess, but okay.
Right. Well, so, and you kind of asked me earlier, is this my favorite Zeppelin album, best album, whatever? You know, Robert Plant said basically he felt that this was the band at its creative peak. And for me, I really agree with this. As I've gotten older, I don't listen to Zeppelin as much as I do, but this is my go-to album. But also when I look at the albums that came after this, those are not my favorite Zeppelin albums.
I understand what you mean.
Good songs on there, but they're not my go-tos.
There are songs I like off In Through the Outdoor. I do like Presence. I feel like Presence is Led Zeppelin's Animals. It's like an album that just isn't talked about as much. Not so much in the way it feels, but I just mean in how it's perceived by the public and fans. I really like Presence, and I think it's a pretty cool album, but you don't hear about it as much.
Yeah, people definitely
Anyways.
don't. It doesn't have. I'm trying to think.
album.
I mean, does it have like that radio single?
No,
like
it actually
right?
really
I mean,
doesn't. And I think even if you look at it, In Through the Outdoor, which I like less, I think has
Fool in the Rain,
Fool in the Rain, and All of My Love.
Evening. Well, in the evening, isn't that one too? I hear that on the radio every once in a while.
I thought In the Evening was on. I'm going to sound like a real asshole here, but that's fine. For some reason, I thought that was on Presence, but I could be wrong. No, that's on In Through the Outdoor as well.
Oh, yeah. I think it's the first song, isn't it? Is it the first song?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, what a jerk. Well, sorry. I have failed you super fans. And I actually consider myself
somebody just didn't do their homework.
Pretty big Led Zeppelin fan.
Yeah, it would be hard to say if I'm sure there's a bigger super fan out there, you know, but
you get to the
like
point where people have like read all these books and everything on bands, and I'm like, dude, I've listened to all their albums like in and out, but I'm sorry, In Through the Outdoor just isn't as memorable for me.
Yeah. And I do have a book of theirs. It's called Hammer of the Gods, the Led Zeppelin saga, which let's see where the bookmark is. The bookmark is on page 247, and the title of the chapter is Nobody's Fault. So,
dude, nobody's fault but mine. Now, I think that's on Presence.
Yeah, so
God, it
maybe
better
there's a
be,
reason.
because if it's on In Through the Outdoor, I'm quitting.
It could be.
Hold on, it is on In Through the Outdoor. Oh wait, no, hold on.
Okay.
No,
well, you look that up.
No, it is on Presence. So
okay, good.
A little
maybe
bit
that's
of
why I stopped. Maybe that's why I stopped there. I mean,
I'm getting flush. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay. Well, I think it's about time we get into the tracks here, Mr. Grimm. What you say about
they're not
that,
going to get into themselves. I agree.
So, again, this is a double album. So we will start with disc 1, side 1, which starts off with Custard Pie. Custard Pie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. Oh.
So, funny,
Okay,
we were just talking about Presence in Custard Pie. Now, reading that there was an early arrangement of Custard Pie, but that eventually got reworked into the song Hot's On For Nowhere off of Presence.
Oh. So.
Redeemed.
Mic drop.
Oh, see, we need a sound effect for that, like
totally
redeemed.
himself.
Yeah. Anyways.
So, dude, it says Page played the guitar solo through an ARP synthesizer.
No.
Is that right, or what's going on?
As I read that, they were experimenting with different possibilities.
Okay.
I don't think.
Is that what he did for the track, or no?
Is there a guitar solo in Custard Pie like the? Because
I feel like
it
there's a
says
guitar-
that
Dude, there's a guitar solo in every Led Zeppelin song.
Yeah,
isn't there?
sure. Yeah, there is, but now that I'm thinking about it, it doesn't sound to me like it was. They said the first take was played at a faster tempo, and after a basic run through, the group then discussed the possibility of rearranging it, and so he played it through an ARP synthesizer, and
ARP.
Jones overdubbed the Horner clavinet part, and Plant played harmonica. Maybe he played it through a synth.
I mean,
with the filter, I guess I could see that because they do a couple of like filter sweeps. But I mean, the thing is, like, for the most part, when you put another instrument through a synthesizer, which I can do in this little beast right here, most of what you get access to is the filter. So you can do like some sweeps, but it doesn't sound like you're playing a fucking Casio guitar typically.
So it's not a Casio with a plastic B. Okay.
Typically not, but dude, the clavinet is. I was actually going to mention the clavinet in there because it's very present.
You would.
Yeah, I almost thought about turning it on, but I'm like, what's the point?
Ventura, we ain't got that kind of time.
No,
This is a double album, even though it's only 14 songs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we still got to rip through it. So,
and I think Plant's harmonica is good, but
oh, dude, it is. It is really good. And I like how he plays that in a handful of songs. Like, it's not overused, but he gets it throughout their music career. Like, it's just a nice little touch here. And When the Levee Breaks. Like,
and I think it's interesting in Custard Pie because when you think of like a distorted guitar and a clavinet, it's like it's kind of funky, right? It's kind of funky. And the harmonica almost doesn't make sense, but then it makes perfect sense when you hear it. Like on paper, it might not make sense. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
right. So then we move on to move on to the Rover, and this is an outtake from Houses of the Holy. And I remember getting this album and putting this in. And the first time I heard this, I was like, okay, yeah, I like this.
It's awesome.
It was just, dude, there was just something really sweet about it. And initially, so check this out. So initially, and this makes sense, it was recorded as an acoustic track, and I think it was going to be on 3, or it was recorded at, I guess, Healy Grange, they said, in 1970.
Dude, it had to be an electric track.
Well, it didn't make the cut or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they reworked it as an electric, song for Houses of the Holy. And again, it kind of didn't make the cut. But check this out. So I was like, man, I would really like to hear the acoustic version of this. Now, there is deluxe version of Led Zeppelin 3. It's not on that. There's a deluxe version of Physical Graffiti. It's not on that. I did it like a YouTube search. And if you search for Led Zeppelin 312 from 1973 to 74 Physical Graffiti sessions, it is the first track. And they play like a minute of it. And the audio quality is absolutely horrible. But it is kind of cool just to hear.
I would like to hear it.
It's very just demo-ish, but it is cool, man, and especially for being like one of my favorite songs on the album.
Yes.
It was nice. It was nice to hear it that way. But it's interesting. It's sort of like this slow. I don't know how to describe it. Like a slower rock song. And Page, I feel like he kind of plays it with. He's got like this attitude a little bit, like the way his guitar sounds.
To me, this was when I heard it. I was like, this makes sense for where Led Zeppelin is going. Like, they're not just doing the same thing, but it's them, right?
Right. Well, it's like, and I kind of made this joke on the previous song. It's like, oh, it's a Led Zeppelin song, so it's got an awesome Jimmy Page guitar solo, right? Yeah. It's not everything has to be just. Yeah. Like I feel like this is very just like on point. It still has great musicianship, and Page crushes it as always. But it just doesn't have to be this,
more of a Gilmour style solo.
Oh, more of a Gilmour style solo.
Well, you know what I mean. That's people. Yeah. I mean,
sometimes it's about playing the right notes, not the most notes, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's
the right notes, not the most notes, right? Yeah. Yes. Right. Yes. Right. Correct.
Yeah. Kind of like how you're such a big fan of Predator 2. Like,
Never
not the
even
second one, but he
watched
likes Predator. But like we both like
But
the first
Predator also.
Yeah. That's a good horrible boss.
But dude, yeah, that is really funny. In my time of dying, I'm gonna say my favorite song on the album.
Wow. Okay. So, dude,
easy.
Over 11 minutes. It's a big one.
Is that the longest Led Zeppelin song?
I was going to ask you that because Achilles' Last Stand is pretty fucking long.
I don't think it's this long, but I'm going to look it up now.
No. Well, is it as girthy? I mean, sometimes, I don't know.
Girth does matter.
Different things matter to different people, what I found.
Well, that's true.
We could go in a whole different direction. That's a different podcast.
It beats it, dude. Achilles' Last Stand is 10:26, my dude. So
all right.
Yeah.
Well, dude, let me ask you this. Now, this is not exactly a cover, but it's based on the traditional song by, I don't know, some guy named Robert Zimmerman, aka Bob Dylan.
Well, but when they say traditional song, typically that means like it's an unattributed, like old blues song that Bob Dylan did on his debut album, and then which makes sense when you listen.
Friends and they told two friends,
and so on and so on. God, if you could do that effect for that part, that'd be amazing. But
I could, but well, and I listened to the Dylan version, and it's one of those things because, especially I think, and I could be completely wrong. I feel like it's more prevalent in some early Zeppelin, especially on the first album. Robert Plant is known for taking like just old blues lyrics,
swiping lyrics. For sure,
reworking them and playing them and everything.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I listen to the Dylan, in My Time of Dying song, like he uses some of those lyrics and sounds and inflection. It's not a direct like cover or copy, but it's like, man, it's heavily influenced. Like, songs are the same something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Songs are the same riff-ish. Obviously, Dylan's is like 2.5 minutes. This is 11.
Yeah.
So they did.
But so much of this is just the instrumental play between them, because I mean it's so good. And one of my favorite things is the studio noise after, where like they finish playing it and someone says like my dying, and he says cough. And then
because he coughs.
Yeah. And then I don't know who it is, but somebody's like, that has to be the one. Yeah.
That's Bonham. Yeah, because Bonham coughs. So basically what happens is at the end of like the last take, Bonham kind of coughs into the mic or whatever. And then, he's like, that's got to be the one, hasn't it? So, that's pretty cool. And
they could have cut that out, but I like that they left it because it just shows such the humanness of like that recording.
In the recording, yep. Mm-hmm. Well, and Grim, I know you have this DVD, and I have this DVD, and for people who are Led Zeppelin fans, you should get this DVD too, because
is that How the West Was Fun?
How the West Was Won?
Oh, How the West Was Fun. Called. That's actually a Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen movie.
Oh no, it is definitely not that. But with this, it has on disc 2, on DVD 2. I mean, first of all, if you're a Led Zeppelin fan, awesome live performances of songs. But a couple of them are on this album. One of them is In My Time of Dying, and it is just a phenomenal like representation and live performance. Just really, really unbelievable. And if you have it in 5.1, if you have a 5.1 surround sound system, it sounds even better. So. Just leave it at that. Highly recommend it, my friend. Because dude, you just get to see Jimmy Page just shred.
Yeah.
Just shred, man, live on this song, and it's really fucking good. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna flip the disc to Houses of the Holy, which ironically enough is not on the album Houses of the Holy. And I think in that interview I watched earlier with Jimmy Page, he even said, he was like, we didn't put it on there because, well, we're Led Zeppelin and it's just kind of funny, and we're just like, we can do what we want. We don't need to put the self-titled song on the album. Yeah. And that would be interesting. I would like to know, and if other people out there know, are there other self-titled songs from other bands that didn't make the album or on like next albums or something like that.
Oh
That
God, that's a whole nother
spin.
spin-off series for us.
That's a whole
Self-titled
nother-
songs that didn't make the album.
Make the album. Yeah. Well, we'll get that to year 17.
But I like this. I think on this one, so the Hammond organ's very prevalent, which is being played through a Leslie speaker, and then I believe Jimmy Page is actually playing his guitar through a Leslie speaker too.
Ooh.
So you really get that kind of nice swirling, warm sound with this song.
Well, dude, they recorded this at Electric
Or maybe
Lady
that's
Studios.
Ooh, maybe
in
that's
New York.
Night Flight. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it might be Night Flight.
Yeah, I think it
Well,
is
anyways,
Night Flight.
they recorded this at Electric Lady Studios.
With Eddie Kramer as the engineer.
Right?
Who's the
Yeah.
engineer for Hendrix.
Who was the engineer for Hendrix, which was interesting because I recognize that name, and there's you were big fans of the classic album series, and there's one for Electric Ladyland, and he is interviewed heavily throughout that whole documentary. It's really, really, really well done. I think it's that one. There's another one too, but anyways, that's Jimi Hendrix. We'll get into that. But anyways, so yeah, and also another reason they left it off. What do you call it? They left it off.
House of the Holy.
House of the Holy is basically they felt like it was very similar to some of the other songs. They thought it was similar to Dancing Days. I think they felt Dancing Days was better.
In Dancing Days is obviously awesome, but man, I don't hear this quite like Dancing Days. For some reason, I was wrong about the Leslie thing that is Night Flight, but I really the note that I had in my dome about this one was the background vocals because I like that boop boop boop.
I got
you know.
Yeah. Well, the thing with I guess
you heed
I
the
wouldn't say
master's call, dude.
I wouldn't say that it sounds exactly like Dancing Days, but when I think for me as not being like a musician, I think about how just a song sounds and feels as a whole, and I really feel like the song could obviously be on that album.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But to me, it has a similar feel as to some of the other songs on that album.
Now here's my
that's just
question.
me. Okay.
Could you possibly switch this song with the crunch? Yeah, I just threw it out there.
Yeah.
That just happened.
Yeah. I could.
I like
me
it
ask
on
you
this
this, though.
album better, but
Okay, yeah, so let me ask you this. All right, if we're swapping out Houses of the Holy for the Crunch, would you rather have Houses of the Holy on this album or the Crunch on this album? Because they would have been like, oh, the Crunch is
House
left
of the
over, so
Holy.
let's put it on Physical Graffiti.
No, House of the
So
Holy.
we're happy with
Yes.
how it worked out.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so forget I said anything, basically.
Just a thought. Just I don't want to get into technicalities here. Just a thought.
No.
So,
Okay.
anyways, trampled underfoot.
Underfoot. Dude, I feel like this is John Paul Jones kind of gets to like
Dude,
do
the
his thing
clavinet,
here,
man.
right?
And what's interesting about the way he uses the clavinet on this album is he uses it more in the way that I think it was intended when they made it. Because it was made to sound like an electronic version of a clavichord, which is like the predecessor to a harpsichord. And when you think of how it sounds, I'm looking at it right now, just thinking about playing it. But when you think about how it sounds, the way he plays it on here, and then like how it sounds, for example, maybe when Stevie Wonder plays it with the wah pedal and stuff, it's a little more like
I like how you done there.
little more like almost neoclassical, or do you know what I mean? It's not as it's funky, but it's funky in like a more pure way. It's not, you don't need
Yeah.
like the wah pedal and all this stuff behind it. It just has that bounce to it.
Yes.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? It just
Dude, the
it always has
bounce.
that bounce, but they don't put like the grit behind it of whatever else. So it's a very
Yeah.
clean sound for the clavinet.
Dude, it is, and I think that's a great way to describe it. It has that bounce,
Yeah.
and I just feel like again, this you really get to see John Paul Jones and his skill come out. I mean, obviously Page has fucking killer riffs and bottom and then.
But
Plant
that's
can
what makes
sing.
it.
Yeah. Well, dude, there's also again on this DVD. fucking awesome killer live version of this song. So, dude, if people like this album, get this DVD because there's some good stuff. And by no means I don't even know who makes this. Or I'm plugging it, but we're not getting anything out of it.
Yeah.
So I think we can move on to probably the most recognizable song on the album.
Iconic song on the album.
Which, ironically enough, dude, was not the single. Trampled Underfoot was the single off this album.
Yeah, but this isn't a radio song.
Yeah, but it's played on the radio every fucking day.
Well,
These are
now.
the classic,
Now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have chose
then.
Trampled Underfoot,
No.
but yeah. Kashmir, yeah. This was the reason I bought the album. When I bought it as like a 15-year-old kid or whatever.
Yeah.
Because of that song, and I figured like if the album's on, or if this song's on that album, it's got to be a good album.
All right, I got a question for you. Do you think this is, other than Stairway to Heaven, do you think that this is their most recognizable song? Whole Lot of Love's pretty recognizable.
Dude, fucking Black Dog. Oh, Black Dog. I mean that. Rock and roll. No, I don't. I honestly don't, because I think there's a lot of people who can go for straight ahead rock, but this is a little out there. Like, not for me. It's right where it should be for me, but I feel like for some people who like their capacity musically is just straight ahead rock, like. You know, like AC/DC would be one of their favorite bands.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not as into Kashmir. And I'm not criticizing this person, but this is just, I think, a very reasonable observation to make.
Sure. All right. Well, initially, Page and Bonham had kind of worked this up as an instrumental sort of song. And then Plant was in... He's in Morocco on vacation, just hanging out in Morocco, which sounds like a great time. That's where he kind of came up with his lyrics. And first, I love all the music and musicianship, but I kind of love the lyrics.
Yeah,
because dude, he's always into that mythological.
Yeah, like going on a journey.
Dude, like the Battle of Evermore,
yeah,
things like that. Even though they're very different songs, but it has that
similar kind of
mysticism behind it, right? Yeah,
dude, I do have to say, I listened to Robert Plant's podcast called I think it's called Digging Deep. I think, don't quote me on that, but he has
Digging
his
deep
own
in planting pots or potted plants.
But dude, he talks about like that trip to Morocco as like a big inspiration for this song, and how they like it never really left him. Like that's still something, I guess, for him that's like that really fascinates him.
Sounds like a hell of a trip, man. Well, dude, again, we've kind of talked about John Paul Jones, like. He's the one who did the string and the brass the brass arrangements for this song. So people really, I feel like he probably doesn't get the credit, or at least I don't know, for some reason I feel like he's not talked about enough, because it is hard, dude. When you have Page and Plant is boom, they're front and center. And Bonham was just such a powerful force that it's easy to kind of get overshadowed a little bit. But his contributions are amazing. And especially to this song, the strings and the brass take it from like a really, really good song to this epic level.
Yes. And then, not to mention, he has these nice little mellotron riffs in there, because you can hear what's the brass and what's the strings. And then he has these parts like when Plant's talking about when I something this crazy land, like you can hear the mellotron in there too, which is him just playing it. But it gives it a nice kind of like lo-fi, but still kind of a big sound in that part. And then it makes it so when the strings and the brass come in, it's like, dude,
it's insane. Well, Father of the Four Winds, after you fill my sails.
Yeah.
How about we flip the record? Oh, no, actually, we're not going to flip anything. We're going to
change. Yeah, we're going to this one.
3. The one he has.
Yeah, the one I have.
Which starts off with In the Light, man. And I'll tell you what, talk about a stark contrast from the way disc 1 starts to disc 2. Can you think of another Led Zeppelin song that sounds like this?
No, this is a totally unique one. And I really like it for that reason. And I believe, I can't tell you the exact model, but I believe that John Paul Jones had a Farfisa organ. And it had this like unique feature where you could hold a note and play something else, and it would like go up to that note, and then they would join together. Yeah, I'll look at. Yeah, dude. And it was funny because I remember back when I have a Farfisa organ now, but a little one that's older than what this would be. And when I was looking at him, an auction came up for the model that he used on that, and I was like real close to pulling the trigger. I kind of wish I would.
Real close. Yeah, dude. Well, dude, I think it's just such a great, unique way to start the album. And again, this is one of the songs that they wrote and recorded for this album. It wasn't a previous track or anything like that. Now, however, there's some earlier versions, and they did kind of rework some stuff. And if you get the deluxe, if you're able to download or get the deluxe CD, there is a version of it, and it's called "Everybody Makes It Through in the Light." And I've listened to that a few times, man, and it's different. It's very different. It doesn't have kind of that the same sort of intro and everything. It actually, to me, almost has a little bit of a darker feel to it. But I really like that version of it too, man. I think it's pretty cool. So if people like this song, I highly recommend checking it out and getting the deluxe version as well, because there's some cool other things to it. Yeah, there's some cool stuff.
Oh yeah.
So, moving on from there, we will go to track number 2, which is Bron-Yr-Aur.
Recorded at Bron-Yr-Aur.
Bron-Yr-Aur, which for people who kind of don't know, it was when they were going to Page and Plant went to Bron-Yr-Aur to this kind of like this little cottage, and that's where they just kind of got away to write some music.
I don't even think it had electricity.
Yeah, it was very bare bones. Rustic. It was not like they were. Yeah, rustic. Yeah, that's what it said in the tour guide, right? But it's a great acoustic song. You can tell, it sounds awesome. I really like it a lot.
I do too.
I think you said something earlier. You kind of liked it after the light and everything, and I do. I'm not talking even about placement. It is an interesting song to be like, hey, well, we're just going to put this on there because it's just like this 2.5 minute little acoustic number. I mean,
but it sounds like the light that they're speaking of.
Oh,
to me, that's why I think I liked it so much. Is it's this beautiful, like, wholesome sound, and I think that they said that there was an alternate title of it was like The Morning or something, which is perfect, like a beautiful spring morning, like
a blossoming flower.
Yeah,
like 10,000 petal lotuses just
opening. I think it was a Farfisa VIP 233, but don't quote me on that. Anyways,
kind of what it sounded like.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that. It's really simple. I think if there's any overdubs in that song, it might be like a couple of the notes to accentuate the runs, but it's really just an acoustic guitar being played very well.
Yeah, which it was good at. So. Track number 3, we're going Down by the Seaside, which is an outtake from Led Zeppelin 4.
Dude.
Dude, I know you love the song. I love it.
Shit, dude.
I will say though, I'm glad. I don't know if it fits Led Zeppelin 4. And
I understand that.
Glad that it's not on it.
Yeah, I think it belongs where it is. But man, I'm just so glad they chose to do something with it because I really like. So he's playing slide. And then he has a vibrato on the amplifier to get that. It's such a nice, unique sound. It was like when I heard it, I knew what it was, But then there was part of me where I'm like, how did no one ever do this before? Like, it sounds wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah.
You're going to love it.
Well, to me, and part of the reason I say it doesn't maybe would have fit on Led Zeppelin 4 is before it kind of picks up a little bit in that middle section, it has a real kind of like almost lackadaisical kind of daydreamy feel.
It sounds like Down by the Seaside.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm just down by the seaside, just hanging out. But I really do that part where it does pick up. He's like, do you still do the twist? Do you find you remember things that well? That's a
Some
really
find
really
it
cool
awful
part.
hard to tell. Yeah, that part. I mean, it's almost like if you didn't really dig that song, but you got that far, that part is so awesome. And then the way it comes back, that you would like the song just for and eventually you would appreciate the rest, I think.
Would. Absolutely. So then we move on to 10 Years Gone.
Which to me, these had to go by each other.
Oh,
there's
perfect.
just some interesting similarity about them. And I was thinking about 10 Years Gone for some reason today. I like the way the guitar parts are and some of the chords they use, which are more like jazzier chords. And I thought, I know that based on some of the things I've listened to and heard, that Stone Temple Pilots was influenced by Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
I can hear it in this song.
Totally.
You know, with the chords they use and some of the guitar stuff they do.
Definitely.
For some reason, I don't know if that sounds weird, but this is the song I hear it in more than anything.
Yeah, I can hear that. Well, in a strange way, this song reminds me a little bit of the Rover in how it's one of those where the sound, the way Page plays it, like it's just good guitar playing. It's not, again, crazy, just like, too much solo.
I guess
it's
this just being a little less rocky, but I see what you mean.
Not the most notes, the right notes. Like that's
sure.
That's what I feel.
That's
when I hear
a great
this.
way to say it.
So, dude, interestingly enough, I guess when they played this live, though, John Paul Jones, and I don't know if this exists or this is a fucking joke, but it sounds like something out of Spinal Tap. John Paul Jones played a triple neck guitar where it had a mandolin, a 6-string, and a 12 string.
No, I've
Does
heard
that really
of this.
exist?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that sounds insane to me. Like, how do you even hold that? Like, what does that look like? Like, it's just
I'm sure
nuts,
you
man.
can find a picture of it. I'm going to look right now, but I did see that the Farfisa that I had was listed on eBay or used on Reverb for almost $2,000. I'm not going to sell it, but damn, that's a lot of money for that thing.
That's a lot of money. Well, I think while you're looking that up, I will flip the side to Night Flight.
Oh, wow.
Again,
it's really something, dude.
That's really something. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen, I feel like I've seen pictures of that before. It's actually, it's not like it's a red heart-shaped guitar body with the 3 necks, so it doesn't look, it looks like a lot to deal with, but it doesn't look totally ridiculous.
He probably wouldn't be like, not that it's his style. He probably wouldn't be like running and jumping around stage with it, though.
No, not.
He wouldn't be doing his best Eddie Van Halen impression. No.
I was gonna say DLR, but same band.
All right,
same band.
There we go. Yeah. Well, moving on to Night Flight. Again, we have another Led Zeppelin. We have a Led Zeppelin 4 outtake.
I agree. This wouldn't necessarily belong on 4.
Yeah,
but this is the one. Yeah.
I find it interesting. Like, dude, Plant just kind of starts. It starts with singing just like right away.
I know. That's what I always liked about this. Is it was just like a little different. From what you would expect.
It is. You're right.
Why I think it's better on this album, and this was the one I apologize for my lyrical misstep earlier, but this is the one where there's the Hammond and then Page is playing his guitar through a Leslie.
Right.
And it sounds really neat.
So neat. So I guess plant saw a headline in the news, and it said like nuclear damage test threat, and he wondered to himself, why is there so little love in the world? You know, Robert, I'm kind of asking myself that same question, and this album was 1975, and we're in 2020. You know?
Yeah. Why? Yeah, why?
You know, and Trent Reznor's asking, you know, why do you get all the love in the world? So
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
It's not enough to go around.
I've always really liked Night Flight. And I know I did mention the thing about the Leslie, but the thing about it is the speaker's constantly moving, right? And so I think that kind of really resonates well with the idea of like a flight or just anything that involves movement, because it manifests it in the sound as you're listening.
Constant motion.
Constant loop.
Constant loop. The Wanton Song, for those of you who love wontons.
Love it.
You know, this is, to me, this is, dude, there's so many riffs in this song. And I think that's kind of what they said when they were talking about it. But, dude, that opening riff is just so fucking nasty. I think sometimes I forget about how nasty some of like, Jimmy Page's stuff is. Like, whoa.
I think it, I'm not sure if it's in the same key, but even if not, it doesn't matter, because I was thinking that it was in the same key as Immigrant Song. I feel like if Immigrant Song got funky.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
All right.
Yeah.
Which Immigrant Song does not get very funky, but
if it did, it would be the Wanton Song.
It would be the one. Okay, that's good. Yeah, it does. It has all those kind of different riffs to it. I feel like, to me, when I was listening to it, it kind of, I don't mean this in a bad way, it kind of stutters along in some of those riffs.
Yeah.
And then it transitions to, it does transition into this kind of like flowy, upbeat feel, and then it gets back into the kind of nasty riffs again.
Dude, I mean, I've like made songs myself that are, you could just hear the influence. Every band has, I think, that just that driving, chopped up beat. There's something so nice about it.
Yeah, I think that's what I was kind of meant by the stutter. Yeah, the chopped up beat, right? Yeah.
And even this, to me, this is in the family of like Jimi Hendrix, Spanish Castle Magic, the Wanton Song, Nirvana's Scentless Apprentice. You know, like they're not the same, but they're in the family.
Grim,
you see what I'm
that's a hell of a family tree right there.
Dude, it is. And so is the Tim's.
So it probably starts with Spanish Castle Magic then, right?
Yeah, and like I said, they're not exactly the same.
Is that the top branch? I don't know.
Yeah, but they're in the family.
Well, let's Boogie With Stu, which is another Led Zeppelin 4 outtake. So we...
Which I can hear, I guess, with the mandolin and the bluesiness. It's kind of like the happier acoustic song that didn't make it, if that makes sense.
And I'm to be honest, I'm kind of glad it didn't.
Me too. But it's more raw. It's more raw.
It is like life. And they said that basically it was kind of a jam session song that they did with the Stones pianist Ian Stewart, who based it on a Ritchie Valens song called "Oh My Head."
Yeah, because that's where I had heard about it. Was the Ritchie Valens one, and so it was interesting hearing that. But then, Ian Stewart. Now reading about Ian Stewart, this was one thing that really bummed me out, and maybe things would have turned out different. So it is the way it is, but. He was a Scottish keyboardist and co-founder of the Rolling Stones. He was removed from the lineup in May of 1963 at the request of manager Andrew Loog Oldham, who felt he did not fit the band's image.
Wow.
Now, he played on a lot of subsequent shit. It was basically like if there was keyboard in the Rolling Stones, it was like him or fucking Nicky Hopkins.
But he just really wasn't in the Stones.
But isn't that shitty, dude?
That is shitty. Well, he just didn't look the part. You didn't look the part, man.
Well, now here's another thing. So my favorite podcast that I listen to, Disgraceland, they were talking. Other than Scratch. Well, I'm in Scratch Track, so it's like I dictate
Still
it
be
as
a
opposed to...
dude. It's my favorite fucking podcast.
It is. Okay, that I listened to. Disgraceland. There was an episode... actually, sorry, it was the 27 Club, still by Jake Brennan. But it was about Jimi Hendrix. And so Andrew Loog Oldham, the Rolling Stones manager, was a real, like, kind of a force, right? You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like a Peter Grant.
Yeah, but if Peter Grant was kind of just like a real fashionable little wiener from London.
Yeah,
like,
that was not Peter Grant.
Peter Grant would have like beat the absolute shit like out of Andrew Loog Oldham just for, reference's sake. But apparently he saw Jimi Hendrix in London and he was like, yeah, I'm not impressed. So automatically you kind of have to be like, your taste is somewhat in question. Now, granted, it's not as if the Stones are not amazing. I mean, like, one of the most amazing bands ever, but like you couldn't identify greatness in Hendrix when you saw him, and you were so worried about Ian Stewart that you had to cut him out of the Stones lineup. Put a fucking hat on him.
Yeah.
Go the Slash route. Dude, put the top hat on and glasses.
Get the long hair. Yeah.
Because it's not like the Stones' music didn't have a lot of piano in it throughout the years. Just saying.
Some good shit. Well, dude, interestingly enough, getting back to Led Zeppelin.
Sorry.
So this song was kind of based off a Ritchie Valens song, "Oh My Head," and they didn't give credit to Valens or Bob Keane. Instead, they gave it to Valens' mother. And then later, Bob Keane, who was the producer and manager of Ritchie Valens, they ended up suing Led Zeppelin, and they got royalties from the song. And his mother...
Sure were huge.
His mother, who was not actually part of the suit, actually ended up getting half of the royalties. So at least this dude, Bob Keane, kind of gave her something, I mean,
yeah.
Seems like
not
he
to
was
say that he
enough.
Probably deserved much, but yeah, I'm glad his mother did.
Yeah, he did. And he just happened to have the rights. He owned Delphi Records, which I imagine is the record company that put out Ritchie Valens' stuff.
Fucking story. Yeah.
Damn, the fucking music died.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because when I listen to that version of the Ritchie Valens song, I kind of feel like, yeah, it's got the same groove in the way he sings it. But to me, it's more like, songs are the same riff. Like, is it? I don't know.
Oh, it definitely is. But I'm with you. I like what Led Zeppelin did with it better.
Yeah.
There's just something about that. It sounds like guys in a room at a bar or something. But those guys were Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. They were okay. Yeah. Well, that's what I kind of feel. I was like, it sounds like a folky saloon type.
But I like the way now Jimmy in the interview that you sent me, which was a great interview, by the way, which was
You're
Jimmy
welcome.
Page talking. Yeah. Thank you. Him talking about the remastering of this album. He basically just said it as like, oh, well, one day Ian Stewart turned up, so we just decided to do this. And there was a piano in the house, which was out of tune that you can hear in the recording. So he took his guitar and just kind of got it like in the middle enough to where it didn't sound shitty. And then they went with
Dude,
it.
that's hilarious.
I think it's awesome. Because that's how it is. I got an old piano right there, and dude, not in perfect tune. And you almost don't want to put it in perfect tune because as long as it's not too far out, there's a character that comes with that,
That's a good point. That's a good point, Ventura. All right, moving on. Black Country Woman. Now, this is a Houses of the Holy outtake.
I love that they recorded it outside. And he says, you got to get that airplane off. And he's like, nah, leave it.
Yeah, now leave it.
Yeah.
And that's cool. It kind of goes back to that fun part of it. And we're just recording and everything. But
that's why I think it goes well where it's placed.
Yeah, and it is cool that, they were like, oh, we just want to get, like, out of the studio. Well, they really got out of the studio.
Yeah.
Like,
outside.
went from the studio to a house to, like, outside. But again, it was like they say it was recorded in a garden in 1972. So that's That's kind of cool.
Was that at Headley Grange though?
No, it's Stargroves. I don't know where that is.
Oh, that's funny because when I was reading about the guy's mobile recording studio, I think it said you can get to anywhere within 100 meters of the trailer.
Well, that's good.
So 300
It's got
feet.
range.
300 feet
range.
of cable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Sick Again. Last track. Sick Again. Basically written by Page and Plant about their 1973 tour with Meeting Groupies, which they were pretty familiar with. Again, I would highly recommend if you want to hear some tales from the crypt, get this book, Hammer of the Gods, because it talks about some weird stuff, stories with sharks, pieces.
Oh, dude. And listen to the Led Zeppelin Disgraceland episode too. A lot of good
after
stuff.
After you finish this one, yeah. And
if you made it this far, you basically did.
Yeah, you kind of did. So, but you should also listen to our Led Zeppelin 3.
Yeah.
Scratch a track. That was pretty good. Now I don't know it's on video, but we still sound really well.
Now it's funny that you talk about, and obviously I read about what the lyrics were about here too. But yeah, a lot of young numbers like low numbers. I mean, dude, dude, R. Kelly, 16. It's My Kind of Weather is going to be in the teens tonight kind of numbers. And it actually is here in the Great White North. It's cold as shit outside.
Yeah, I know. I did notice that. I don't want to read too much into it.
I know
because I really like Led Zeppelin. But I think it was more about, there were these groupies and these girls probably, coming after them and just hanging around and being around.
Oh, sure.
And whether that was acted
basically
upon,
get pregnant.
Speak, but yeah.
That's a meal ticket. That's called that's called the meal ticket plan.
Yeah. Well, let's leave that there. But anyways, as a song.
But the riff is fucking hot.
Yeah, the riff is hot. It's the hottest shit. And I find it interesting that the song is called "Sick Again," because it's just kind of like it's like, man, is this just like the same old shit? Like over and over, like every other right, dude, Grim. Every other city we go, every other video, no matter where I go, I see the same hoe.
Yeah.
Right? That's pretty much it.
Songs are the same theme.
This is just Led Zeppelin's version of that.
Yeah. Tupac was very influenced by Led Zeppelin.
He was. Yeah. Huge fan. All right, Grim. We need to get to our scratches. Everybody, how we do double albums on here, we scratch a track on each album. So we're going to do that.
Two discs, two scratches. So, dude, I want to put you on the tee, I think.
Okay.
So Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin, disc one.
I'm going to go with Houses of the Holy.
Okay.
And I'm going to do that because there's a lot of fucking good songs on that first disc. And I have a really hard time picking any other one besides that. I mean, I understand some people could scratch, and I could understand. I don't think I could do it into My Time of Dying just because it's 11 minutes.
Oh, dude, I would give a what the fuck to anyone who scratches that one.
Yeah. I fucking know you would, and I get that, but
such
a lot
contempt.
of people are like. But a lot of people are like, yeah, I don't want to listen to an 11-minute song. I'm not one of those people. So, all right.
And thank God.
Don't cast me in that light, all right? But I would just go with Houses of the Holy because, man, dude, I can't do Kashmir. Can't do Treble Under the Foot. In My Time of Dying, the Rover. I mean, maybe Custard Pie, but I don't know.
But it's still a good one. I know.
I didn't really set you up. I mean, because I kind of basically... Anyways, you go.
Okay, so this hour, okay. Well, you're not getting anything from me. I don't know if I will, but dude, I would actually scratch Trampled Underfoot.
Can't. I will give you a what the fuck is that shit play.
That's fair. You know the reason why?
Yeah,
because
I
I just
but I want
don't really like the lyrics. It's the most fucking microwaved, fucking standard rock, predictable lyrics I've ever heard. Talking about basically comparing your sex life to a car's maintenance schedule. And
I've done that.
But the thing is, yeah, sure. Musically, I really like the song. But
that's why I can't.
Dude, but I actually, if you want to get funkier, I think Custard Pie is a little funkier. Not cutting the fucking Rover. In My Time of Dying, go F yourself. I really like Houses of the Holy. I can see why it would be scratched by many people, but and then again, dude, I bought the album at a young age for Kashmir, so it ain't gonna be that.
It ain't gonna be that. No.
Ain't no word.
No. Yeah, I feel like John Paul Jones's work just stands out too much to me on Trampled Underfoot.
Dude, it really does.
That's what I can't do. I can't do it, but the fuck is that shit? All right. Disc 2, your turn. What do you got?
Oh. Well, I'm interested where this will take us, but Boogie With Stu.
Ooh, okay.
I like the song, but like, dude, I could live without it.
I got you. Yeah, that would maybe be on my short list.
And like an alternate if we went to overtime, which we're clearly not.
Clearly not. Mine is actually Black Country Woman.
Okay. Well, to me, those, I hate to say it, but they kind of go hand in hand, like we were talking about in the tracks, you know?
Yeah. Well, Led Zeppelin in this song, I've noticed they do it sometimes in their songs, and they do it in this one, where they'll have just kind of acoustic in the music playing, just that and the singing and everything. And then John Bonham will just come in, boom, boom, with the kick drum. Like he'll do that in Bron-Yr-Aur Stomp, where it's just like nothing, and then boom, and then it comes in. And I kind of like that. I do like that. But in this song, I don't know. It just, there's something about it just doesn't really do it for me.
That's a good point. I'm not gonna recant what I said and like go into overtime, but
no,
I feel like I should have thought about this one more.
Yeah.
But the thing for me is, for some reason, it is something so minute and stupid, but I love the humanness of the fucking airplane on the recording. I really like that's something that almost wouldn't let me do it, I think.
Yeah. Well, and that's what also that is one thing I like about it. I'm still going to scratch it, but I do like that it was done outside. There's something cool about that, just recording in a different environment. And we've talked about other bands, Radiohead's done that in some of their songs. Bjork did it. I don't know if that track made the album, but in her post album, she recorded one of her
vocals
songs
in a cave.
It was like in the Bahamas. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. But all right. I think that officially scratches Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin. So yeah, if you guys have not heard this album or is not as familiar with it, we highly recommend it, and highly recommend the DVD, and pick it up on vinyl.
I can't wait to, because I like both discs. I really think, dude, that this should be kind of a props to the show, because I feel like if there was criticism of us being too like-minded, this would have been an album where there would have been a clear fucking double overtime, one on each disc. And I feel like it really kind of highlighted the differences in opinion and,
That's a really preemptive defense. I like that. That's
it wasn't even meant to be a defense. It was more just like a feather in our respective caps.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if there was one, dude, the first one has 6 songs. This one has 8, or 9 songs on this.
Would have been real easy to double up on those and go into double OT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is, but we didn't. So, on that note, everyone, it's time to go. We hope that you will tune out. We're gonna tune out while you guys tune in.
Cheers,
everyone. All right, Khaki Scouts out. Time to go. Dude and Grim Show.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More in the Tins. Copyright 2021. The Dude and Grim Show.